Hello, hello. How's it going, Enzu? I'm really glad to have you on today, man. We've been talking about this for a couple of days now. It's nice to finally get it going.
Yeah, man. Same here. Thanks a lot for having me on your podcast. It's a
Well,
really big
like I tell
pleasure.
everybody, it's not like it's going to do you any good yet, but I do appreciate you being here for the building stages because that's going to matter later on.
Hmm.
And of course, I mean, as with everybody, I don't mind doing double, triple, whatever recordings. I'm happy to just talk to people and get the information out there. I just want to release it, with a little bit of separation to it, so people aren't getting spammed with the same person over and over and over. And if I could do
Yeah.
that for myself, I absolutely would.
Multiple hosts.
Because I'm positive my voice has got to get it. It annoys me sometimes.
Nah, man, your voice is fine. Don't worry. I've heard worse.
Well, I appreciate it. So let's just kick it off right in with
Yeah, sure.
the art that you do and the inspirations that you have. What drives you to be somebody who creates stuff that you put out there to the public and try and sell?
Well, basically, I started copying anime most of the time when I was a kid, and that turned me into an animator, which I studied for a couple of years. But I eventually dropped that out because it was too time consuming. So I started to dive more into what is now digital art. So
Now,
uh,
did you drop it because it was time consuming on the projects you were doing, or just because it was taking up the time to practice doing it and getting better?
I think a bit of both because animating in general it takes a lot of time because you have to do frame by frames. I mean, one frame is 0.1 second. So imagine how long like a 5 minute animation would be.
Yeah,
And
I adore hand-drawn animation, and so I've
same.
watched a ton of different documentaries and stuff on the process. So it definitely is super involved.
Yeah, and then well, basically, I saw that I wasn't improving that much because I stick with the stick figures and really short full body animations, and I was like, okay, I want to make a series. I want to make something big, so I can't do it while I'm doing this. That's why I started to make comics, and that's
And
why.
what pushed you in the direction of comics specifically? Do you have any kind of the intellectual properties that you are inspired by?
I have a few, yeah. The first one would be, I mean, since I was a child, I always loved the concept of demons. Or, for example, Devil May Cry. Do you know that game?
I played number two so much.
Okay.
Dude, I love that series. I'm on it. Even number five, which just vastly disappointed me. I've beaten it at least 3 times already. Even the remake,
Nice.
DMC, on it. I was an OG for that. I
Yeah.
bought that at full price when it first released.
Yeah. No, a lot of people hated it. I didn't care, honestly. I was like, yeah, more demons to kill. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was all about. I'm trying to get those triple S's. I don't care where it's from.
Yeah. Well, and
Okay,
I
so how does inspirations like Devil May Cry play into your work? What is it you take from that?
oh, if any of the listeners ever see my stuff, they're gonna see that my main character has a big ass sword, and the main storyline that I'm working on, and the series is about basically demon hunters against demons. That's it, and that have
Simplicity is key.
yeah, that's the what drives the story is the weapons they use because they are like this machinery advanced technology, and I'm trying to make like cool action sequences.
Okay.
So okay, so basically the story and the context of it all, it's all secondary. What I most wanna get out there is the action, and because I love action and that's the main reason I started animating.
So in that pursuit, do you find that maybe the writing kind of falls back to the wayside a little bit on there? Do you not pay as much attention to it in exchange for over detailing the action sequences, you think?
Well, probably, but because if you pay attention to the animation and the directing and the scenery and the drawings, you're gonna have a few you know plot holes or things that don't make that much sense. You can see that with the series Ruby, which
Yeah.
was
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
yeah, at the beginning it was like an amateur project, but then it started to become something else.
Which
So
is,
that's
I love Rooster Teeth for having taken
yeah.
something indie and small like that and pushed it out to the mainstream popular point that it's at right now. I mean, those guys probably started doing it just for fun. And now there's a video game, there's a whole series, everybody knows it, there's merchandise. I mean, how cool is that?
hmm Well, rest
Good
in
for
peace,
them.
Montium. That's the main point for me. You know Montium?
So, no, I'm not. I don't. What's up?
Okay, okay. He was the creator of the action sequences. I think the entire anime actually, but he died. He passed
He
away.
actually died? Oh, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
yeah. After the third season, he got. I don't remember what was it, but he passed away, and I was really bummed out about it because he was one of the coolest animators out there.
That's too bad. Yeah, I didn't get any news on that. I've been consuming the product, but I never checked out, uh, what was going on with the guys who made it.
hmm
That's crazy. Yeah, it's never come up either. That's wild.
Yeah, it bumped the entire community out. But you were gonna ask something, I think.
Well, what I was going to say was, is that something that you're interested in then? Is doing a project like that where you create the base characters and then start on an animation so that you can do kind of what Ruby did?
Exactly. Like, that's pretty much what I want to do. I wanna make something that people like to watch, just for the sake of it. You know how some people feel like some movies or games are fun to play, but the story is kind of dumb.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Souls, Bloodborne,
Well,
pretty much
yeah,
anything by From Software.
yeah, yeah. But you have to yeah, for if you want to understand the story of Dark Souls, you gotta read through an entire Wikipedia. But
Yeah, but you could like have an actual fit of rage and just ruin your entire life by hating this game so much that you try to become perfect at it and never have any clue what's actually going on.
you have no idea how many controllers I broke. But
I believe it.
um, I guess that uh, I don't think that they're trying to make the story less important in those games. But
No, but they make you kind of reach for it. I mean, the story, if you really get into it on that game series specifically, it's so robust and it's insane the level of detail that they put into giving you these little hints and the just. I think part of it is allowing players the option to, if they
yeah,
decide to strive to learn the story, they just unlock this massive amount of flavor text and lore.
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of a little different in that way. I mean, they do a lot of writing and a lot of storytelling, but you have to seek it out. Whereas you're talking about maybe pushing the action a little bit more without really worrying so much about the story and the plot in some ways,
well,
being a
yeah,
little
but,
bit
but
more loose with it.
whenever I start, the entire series, I won't focus only on the action as I mean, I'll try to focus more on the action, but I'll try to not leave behind the script and everything else. Because have you ever seen like a romantic novel or a romantic anime or whatever? Have you?
Uh, Novels, not really, unless you count that time I read Twilight when I was in high school, and that was for a girl, and I didn't enjoy it, and that story sucks. That book could have
Okay.
been written into one book if she would have just condensed the letters and stopped trying to pretend like nobody could read. Um, yeah, nah, I'm not really into it. My genre is
Okay.
mostly like horror, thrillers. I like to feel pumped, you know. And if somebody
Yeah.
can do that by scaring the hell out of me, I'm in.
Two things. First, I love romance, and that's why I wanted to do like a side story in my comic about a romance well done, like a romance that you would think that actually could happen in the real world.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I'm trying to do, and the other thing I'm trying to do is to scare the shit out of people because my creature design is, I think, my best uh, skill as an artist. I love creating creatures and monsters, so I want to translate that into demons and such. So
That's interesting. Now, is that something that you kind of stumbled on accidentally, or is that something you knew you wanted to do and you really practiced and focused on it?
I'm gonna be honest, I stumbled on accident because there's this manga artist, and I hope someone knows it. His name is Junji Ito, and he draws the most creepy things you've ever seen, probably. And he inspired me so much that I wanted to start some. I tried once to make something scary, and I got a few scares, and it was like, oh, damn, I can do this. And then I started drawing a lot of creatures. I have them all on my Instagram, and
Now, how important is that initial rush of like positive affirmation towards creating something new like that? When you put this first design out there and you got that reaction, is that really what pushed you towards continuing to do it, or is it something that you were just really interested in and regardless you would have done it anyway?
I feel like it's a few things. Probably I was, first of all, I was happy with the drawing in general, and I felt like, oh my god, I just created an actual monster. And then when I showed it to people and they said, oh, yo, this is scary as they were like, I was like, Jesus, it looks like I'm good at this. So I feel like that was a big part of it. I don't know if it's that
So it's a
important,
little
but it,
bit of
it was.
A and B.
Yeah, it was important for me, definitely.
Now, what was your drive initially to create a story based around these things? How do you go from just thinking like, oh, I might be good at this, to actually focusing on it and doing it?
Uh, Again, it comes from two ways. First, I wanted to make an action series, and then, well, when I discovered how good I was drawing monsters, I was like, okay, I want an action series with these creepy monsters. So I combined both of them, and that's what I'm working on mostly because,
And of
uh,
course, we'll have the link to that in the description because people are gonna check it out now for sure.
yeah, of course. I don't have anything finished. Well, I have the script and the storyboard finished, but that's it. I don't have any. Like I have like the first two panels. That's it because this a lot of work that you have to put into a comic.
It definitely is. I mean, any creative endeavor that you want to last a while is a lot of time and dedication for sure. But we talked about somebody previously in one of the podcasts. I think it was the one with Riva,
Mhm.
where it's a man named Randy Mulholland, and
Yeah.
he does a comic called Something Positive, and his anime, or I don't want to say animation because that's not what it is, but his art style is a little bit cartoony and simplistic in a way that he is able to push this comic out almost every single day. He puts out a new sheet for it. And
Mm.
I think there's something to be said about simplifying yourself to a point to where you can feasibly do that because you're not overworking yourself by putting too many details into the product. And you can see how his art style's transformed from the initial release to where he's at right now, and it's gotten smoother and better as he goes. But it it's still down to that essential of it's simplistic enough that he can do it in just a little bit of time and get that out there, and these stories actually mean something, even though it seems like he simplified his path down a little bit to where he can kind of mass produce it in a way.
Yeah.
So I mean, that might be something to strive for in your own works. Don't go overly detailed with it. Give yourself a little bit of lighter workload so that you can make sure you're producing this content on schedule the way you want to.
Well, actually, I call what you're talking about the Family Guy effect. Have you seen a Family Guy?
Excuse me? I'm an American. Of course I have. That's
I
part of the
well,
zeitgeist at this point.
I forgot who I was talking to. I'm sorry. Uh, okay, Family Guy used to be this masterpiece animated, and they used to get I don't know, not that big of a budget, but now that budget has increased a lot, and the animation decayed is not as good as it was before. So what there are two reasons for this. Either they got lazy, or they just don't care, because Family Guy has a really, like The Simpsons and American Dad and all those series, even Rick and Morty. We can talk about that too. They have like such a simple style because they can put out things quickly. But when you look at other artists, like for example the one I talked about, Junji Ito, it has like, I don't know, 50 pages of detail, and and that's what I wanna achieve. I want something that people can remember. It's not something that people read, laugh, and forget.
Well, I would say that there's benefits to the way they do it, as well as benefits to the opposite end of the spectrum. So, I mean, they have simplified it, and you can say in some ways success has probably brought them to a little bit of laziness because they know almost for a sure thing at this point with how long these things have been syndicated and how just absolutely into the pop culture they are, that no
Mhm.
matter almost what they do, they're going to succeed. But
Yeah.
then now you can say that with how simple it is, it's easier to understand, it's less to remember, it's more identifiable. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have things like Studio Ghibli, where everything is
Yeah.
super detailed. There's not a mass quantity of content out, but I remember every single one of those movies because they're so dear to me.
Well, look
Um,
at Akira. Remember the amount of detail that had?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, and it that just blew the whole gate open to the
Yeah.
anime world, from what I can tell. I mean, it seems like if there was no Akira release in America, we wouldn't have mainstream anime the way we do right now.
That's totally true. Well,
So
that's something
you
I
can see
strive.
it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
positives and negatives to each ideal there for sure.
hmm Yeah, that's why I
How do
think.
you feel about somebody actually catching some success and then getting lazy and kind of following a mold instead of striving to be better? How does that make you feel as an artist?
Well, as long as this, you know, if I did it myself, I would at least listen to my audience. That's my main drive because I want to make them happy. But I don't know what the Family Guy creators think, because the amount of views that they get is way lower than they used to be, and that's, I don't know, that's sometimes people don't listen to criticism because they don't care. They just care about their paycheck, and that's completely fine.
Well, and
But
I would say in some ways, the way people view and consume content has changed. Where before it used to matter if you were watching TV, you had to go and watch specifically, Family Guy would be on like 7:30, and you had to
yeah,
be there at 7:30 to see that episode. But now they can release. I mean, you see a million episodes or channels on YouTube that are just like, oh, little clips of Family Guy, and then you see something
yeah,
interesting, and you're like, oh, I got to go watch that episode, and then you go from that episode to the next
yeah.
episode or the one before. You just continue consuming from that little taste that you got that brought you in.
You're talking about attention span, which has
Yeah,
decreased a
attention
lot.
span and legacy. When you have a legacy of content, there's more for people who get interested in you initially to go back and view.
Mm. Obviously, this is not to hate on Family Guy. I'm just saying that they get paid more just to make less, and that's heartbreaking for most of the animators out there.
No doubt, but it is an interesting conversation to have, and they are so silly successful that, I mean, there's nothing we can say that's going to hurt any of those people's feelings. What are they going to do? Wipe the tears off their face with $100
Well,
bills? Come on now.
you'll be surprised. Have you heard of J.K. Rowling?
Unfortunately, yeah. I'm not at all a fan of the Harry Potter series, not because it's not a wonderful series for a coming-of-age tale of a boy who goes through adversity and becomes a man despite it. I just hate the magic system. It doesn't make sense. It's there's no risk reward. It's nonsense.
Mhm.
I can't stand it. If you want a good magic system, go read literally anything by Jim Butcher. That dude is a wizard with magic wizard with magic systems.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, when I didn't know why I never got into that series until I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, this is basically for kids. I mean, it's such a simple magic system that anybody can get it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I mean, it's meant to be open for anybody to understand and not make it difficult. And I get that. It's just not for me, personally.
Well,
Everybody has their own thing, and that one's not mine.
the comparison I wanted to make is that she gets backlash all the time. Uh, she's a really well-known writer, and every time she makes a controversial decision with one of her characters, she gets so many, I don't know, mean comments or just negative feedback that that affect her, because she at this point some people think that she's delirious. But I don't know. I don't know. I found it interesting on how some people care and some people don't, or some people listen to their audience and some people don't.
Well, and I mean, artists are, uh, but I can't think of the right word for it, but almost by design, artists are more sensitive people
Mm.
to any kind of criticism, to anybody who dislikes their work. I mean, they're just sensitive. And for somebody who does writing, especially, I would assume, you spend a lot of time crafting these words and trying to make things the way you want them exactly and following a story and making sure there's no plot holes and all these things. And for
Mm.
somebody to break it down and tell you, oh, that's crap because you said Dumbledore was gay. I can't imagine that feels very good. And frankly, why does it matter? Because you never see Dumbledore in a sexual situation. I don't care if he's gay or
Actually,
straight. He's an
well,
amazingly powerful wizard, dude. I, if I
I
met the
mean,
dude in real life, I wouldn't comment on it because he might turn me into a frog.
well, actually, since that all of that happened in the second spoiler alert. So, spoiler alert for uh,
It's
what
been
is it
out for
called?
years at this point. I don't think
No, no,
spoiler
no.
alerts are
The
necessary.
the new movie. What is it called? Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The second one has Dumbledore being with a guy. with well,
Isn't
and
that
basic.
isn't that the guy who plays what's his name? Johnny Depp?
I
Grindelwald, I think.
Yeah, he's the one. I didn't remember the name because I didn't watch the movie, but I've heard a lot of critics say that was an in-your-face moment because
That's just art. Any relationship involving Johnny Depp, that man's beautiful.
yeah,
That's just art.
he's a weirdo guy sometimes.
No doubt. I mean, that's why we love him, is because he's so super weird.
Hmm.
Now,
Okay.
when you put something out there, and like previously mentioned, artists are sensitive. So, how do you deal with negative feedback on the work that you do? Do you tend to take it into account and try and build off of it, or do you often ignore the people naysaying just because people can tend to do that when especially when they're unhappy with the things that they're doing? They like to talk down on somebody else's creative endeavors as well as just their general passions to kind of bring them down to their level, and you see a lot of that on the internet, which is disappointing in its own way. But
Yeah, yeah.
as in your work, how do you deal with that?
Well, every time I get negative feedback, I think this. Okay, I think that a lot of people should not think this way, but I kind of go this route. Think how serious the person is taking it. How much of his time is he taking to make a comment of your work? Because let's just say that he just comments, yeah, this is, dog poop, and you're like, okay, you what should I take from that? I don't know what to say. I'm like, okay, then move on. Next comment, and then whenever somebody is like, okay, I didn't like this and this, but I did like this. I'm like, oh, okay, this person made me like rethink the way I do things, because he actually took time to tell me what he didn't like, he or she, sorry. And I can take something from that, and I also never get offended. I never get sad. I never. There's no way for me to feel bad about a mean comment. I mean, I either laugh or show it to my friends, and we all laugh. So that's my way to deal with it. But if I get, neutral or destructive criticism, which is the one when people tell you all of the flaws in your drawing and they don't point out, and like they don't even point out a single good thing. They only talk about the bad things. I love that because it makes me feel like I'm learning from my mistakes, and I can, work towards that. So no, I just I never ignore feedback.
Yeah, so you just take it through a lens of how much effort they actually put in giving you the feedback. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
basically.
When you're dealing with the negatives, though, does that really? I mean, you say you don't get offended, but I think we all have a moment where maybe you're just having a bad day and you see something just out of the blue, completely unnecessarily negative, and then it hits you. You know, just like, oh man, maybe he's right. So, do you ever deal with that feeling in your work?
I'm gonna be honest. I never had that feeling, and I had a lot of bad mean comments in my YouTube channel or in my DeviantArt. I used to get a lot of mean comments, and I never took it that way because it's just words on the internet. That's how I saw it, and yeah, that I pretty much never got offended by it, or it never made me rethink what I was doing. I would just looked at it like in a funny way, because at the end of the day, there's no way for them to actually affect me because they're on the other side of the world in a computer.
That makes sense for sure.
Mhm.
Now, but have you ever had to deal with it face to face? I mean, you do have a YouTube channel. You have done a podcast. I mean, you put yourself out there quite a bit. Have you ever met somebody who's consumed your comment and or content and given you comment on it directly?
What do you mean directly? You mean like a
Like face to face?
face to face?
Yeah.
A few times. Well, mostly they were just friends, but they never looked at it from an objective perspective. They were always like, "Oh, this is funny," and that's it. That's all they say. Or well, even family members. Maybe my cousin used to watch my videos and he loved them. He's my age, kind of. And no, I feel like no, I never had. But even if I did, I would just laugh it out probably because I just make a joke out of everything. So if somebody make like a like a mean comment in person, like "Yo, your YouTube channel is the worst" or something, I'll be like, "Thank you, have a good day."
You're probably right.
You're probably right. Yeah.
So now we know, you know, what drives you as a artist, kind of
Hmm.
what you want to do in the future, and where you're going with this webcomic.
Hmm.
Speaking on past projects, are there any specific lessons that you've taken away from failures that you're going to implement in these things you want to do in the future?
Failures. Yeah, probably working alone. I don't know. I feel like working as a team with a team of animators could be better, or with an actual team of sound design and editors. Every piece to the puzzle. I think that would help me out a lot, and I could make with me being the director, obviously. that would really help make things much better, because I used to sit there and draw the same thing over and over again, and it makes people
So you want
crazy.
to eventually try and get a studio together for your
Yeah,
projects.
I totally would.
And I agree with that. I've explained it before. Like, my best work is always done collaboratively. It's never when I'm by myself, because I don't think through the thought process all the way when I'm just doing it on my own. But when I have somebody who I can explain it to and try and, build it up to be as good as it is in my head in Word, it tends to be better than it was when I was alone. So do you find that in your work?
Working with people. Well, so
Yeah. Well,
far,
like, when you work with people, do you have a better chance of, getting the idea more fleshed out by working with somebody else rather than alone?
if it is something as big as a comic, or as an animated series, I think yes, because you have a lot of more perspectives that can help you improve what you're already doing. I mean, if you see something that is good for you, but the other person is like, I think that this doesn't fit at all, I can get down with that, and that person can help me out a lot by giving me his thoughts, even even if they are a bit negative, or even if they, I don't know, because at the end of the day, it's all for the thing to be good. You want the comic or the animated series to be good. So having a second or third or fourth perspective would help out a lot.
That makes sense.
But
And you
I was gonna
see,
say, Demi, with your podcast, uh, it's the same thing, because it wouldn't be possible without the graphic designers and the guy who makes the music.
yeah, absolutely. And uh, not only is it cool to have these guys that are currently doing it. I mean, Model X does all the music, Lincoln does all the visuals, and right now the commission's open for OJ to do uh, the intro animation.
Yeah,
Um, so with them doing it, I don't think of it as just, they did this thing so that I can make the product. I think of it as an opportunity. Each one of these different things is an opportunity to get somebody else out there. So when I hire a musician or an artist for the product that I'm trying to put out, I don't give them a specific direction. I tell them, I want you to make something that you're proud of, something that you would be all right with people seeing, because that, in the end, that's what it is. Every little bit of
yeah,
content on this, as far as I'm concerned, is an advertisement for the artists who make it. I'm just a voice box. That's all I am. All I do is ask questions. You guys put out the content. If it weren't that, frankly, the recordings couldn't even happen. If you didn't have your opinions on your work and everything, we wouldn't be doing this right now, because what am I going to do? I'm not an artist. I can't speak on these things. All I can do is ask you questions that I'm interested in.
well, you're not an artist, but you are definitely making some content. So in my eyes, you kind of are. You're actually a good host. I've heard almost all of the podcasts by now. I can tell that this is a really cool concept.
It's a passion project for sure. If I could get this to a point to where I can live off of it and sustain myself and have a little bit of extra to put into the communities that I adore
Mhm.
and kind of bring everybody up together, that's where I want to be. I want,
Yeah.
if I could connect, I mean, not just gaming, I know it's gear by gamers, but if I could
Mhm.
connect anybody with a passion to make a bit of content out there and get them with an artist to make more original, better work instead of this cookie cutter template nonsense that you see everywhere, then that would empower both the creators and the artists, and together we can all be better. There's no reason for the two different communities to be separated by just a wall of awkward communication.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that all your guests, your past guests and future guests, and even me will want that from you. I'm sure we all want the same thing, and that is that you improve this channel and you keep it going.
Oh, I will, man. I love it so far. It's only 5 episodes in, and it's already got so much more traction than I expected it to. And admittedly, a lot of that is me shopping it around to different communities, kind of spamming it out there. But the intention is
That's how it
You
starts.
know,
Yeah.
as it is, I genuinely am trying to do something positive for the people that I love, regardless of whether or not I know them. So if I have to do a little bit of spamming to get it out there and get it to the point where I want it to be, I'm okay with that. That's a necessary evil.
Well, some channels have the free advertisement thing.
If I had the money to afford it, man, I'm so busy paying for these commissions that I just can't afford to do any kind of like promotional stuff.
You totally should, dude. It's just such a cool concept that I haven't seen before.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No
And now,
problem.
that's that really does mean something to me, coming from somebody who has done a podcast before, and I would say a better one, because yours was much more polished. You had better visuals. I don't mean visuals as in the art that Lincoln did. I am not talking down on Lincoln. I love that boy. I love him so much. But
Yeah, no.
just the way you set it up, it was very interesting looking. I couldn't understand a word of it because you guys do it in Spanish, but you put out a quality product. You know.
Hmm. Well, there was only one problem, which was the members. We didn't have that big of a chemistry. I still talk to one of the members, but the other two were like they didn't even knew each other. I was the only one who wanted to do this, and it also took a lot of time to render the entire thing since I used to use After Effects, and that if you ever start to use that program, Demi, I wish you the best because it's gonna take entire nights for you to render something.
Well, not in a selfish, lazy way. I know I can do this stuff if I put my
Mhm.
mind to it. But I think I want to use the opportunity to hire somebody to do it, to just have another promotional spot. So if I can get
Oh.
somebody to do the audio editing, which I have already, that's Chase Dunkley, by the way, episode 5, check that out. Uh,
Mhm.
but I also would like to get somebody doing the video editing, because these are people that I can shout out for doing that and potentially bring paying jobs to them at some point for doing that. So it's just another avenue, like the visuals, like the music, like the intro animation, where I can shout somebody who's doing something cool and hopefully bring them money and work and help them support themselves off of doing that cool thing, you know?
Hmm. Well, if you go that route, it wouldn't be bad because you're basically following your own rules. The statement you set up to make when you started all of this. But I don't know. I feel like my podcast was honestly doomed from the start because we were just making it up as we went to, and the members just weren't working out. So if you ever bring more people to this or make it a multi hosted podcast, my best advice would be that you have a really good relationship with the member or that you know him from a long time.
Well, we've talked about that a little bit outside of the recording, and one thing
Mhm.
that you guys brought up to me that I thought was a really good idea was maybe having an artist and a writer sit down together and just kind of have me mediate the conversation and push them towards, certain topic points and things like that, should things get derailed. But
Yeah.
get to see those two people kind of sit down and how they would take different inspirations from each other and how they would collaboratively start to work on a process. Because not only I would say the purpose of these episodes is twofold. The first is to introduce you to somebody who might potentially buy your product or work with you. And the second is to give a bit of inspiration to younger artists. So everybody
Yeah.
who I featured has been fairly young and has been early on in their careers, because I don't have a name. I can't get anybody who's a veteran in the field. Not yet anyway. I'm gonna get there. But
Yeah, I totally want you to get there because I already talked to someone about this, and I wanted to shout out her name if I can.
please do.
Okay, her name is Shell Presto, which is honestly one of my favorite artists at the moment. She's been working on this for a long ass time, and she has sold a few books. She has made a few comics, But
Yeah,
her
you
plot.
actually had her join the Discord server. I remember that. And I believe we spoke about doing a recording already. I'll have to go back in the chat and double check.
Oh, did you? I wasn't there. Well, okay. But she commissioned. She was the first person to ever commission me to make a drawing as well, because she saw my background skills and she wanted me to help her with her universe. She
Hold
was
on, does that mean you have work in her universe?
I'm still working on it.
Oh, okay, so it's an open commission at the moment.
Yeah, well, she already paid me half, but I'm gonna. She hasn't established a deadline, so that's why I haven't finished it yet. Also,
Okay.
it's taking me a long ass time because it's a background of an entire city, so there's a lot of buildings and a lot of little windows,
A lot of
and
work
it
to do.
yeah. But I'm really stoked of working with her because I'm a really big fan of her work, and she has posted a bunch of high quality videos, but she only has 200 subscribers, and I feel like that's so unfair. And she should get more attention. And
Now, I agree with that, but I would say that I've been dealing with this myself in putting things out where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had more than 33 subscribers. But
mm,
I keep thinking, on the other hand of that, what if 33 people, like real people, were walking around following me, waiting for me to say something? That would freak me out
mm.
all the time. So I use that to kind of balance things. Could you imagine if she had 200 people waiting for her to draw a picture? Like standing there waiting for that picture to be done so that they could look at it? That would be wild. So
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think people should put themselves down on having a smaller base because it is real people that you have looking at the things that you're doing. And I personally, looking through that lens, am appreciative of every single person who views this content.
Mm. Well,
So
yeah.
wait,
Now
let's
that you
talk
say
about
so.
commissions for a second, real quick,
Yeah.
because I've fallen afoul of this. As you know, we've had a whole conversation of it. I don't want us to talk too much on what's going on because it hasn't been resolved yet. But as an artist, when you take a commission, what kind of dedication do you put towards that? When somebody gives you money, especially up front, how do you handle the workload and how quickly are you looking to satisfy that customer?
I try to show work in progress as often as I can because I want them to, feel like they're actually paying for some quality. Before I used to, before I started drawing, I used to make here in South America we have 15 uh, sweet 15, I think, when a girl turns 15 and they have a huge party.
Yeah.
I used to
Isn't that
make
called a quinceanera or something like that?
quinceanera, yes. Wait, I think I said it wrong.
Ha!
Okay, never mind. I don't even know how to talk in Spanish. Well, I used to make videos commissioned for this girl's dad, and they used to be really cautious with what I was doing because they wanted their money's worth, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what I got from that. And now when I started making commissions for, I made so far I haven't done that much, but the show presto one is the biggest one that I've done so far. And then I basically started sketching and sending it to her. She gave me some feedback on what I should do to make it better. Basically, she was saying something like, "This is supposed to be like a futuristic city, so you should add these things, this amount of buildings, these shapes." And I was like,
So it
"Okay, I
sounds
can."
like she's kind of using a bit of her experience to nurture your creativity in a way. Like she hired you
Exactly.
for a product, but at the same time, she's kind of giving you pointers on how to make your own work better.
Yeah, it's like she's not an expert on. I don't know, actually. I've seen a few of her backgrounds and they're amazing, but for a background this large, I feel like she felt that I was better for the job. So That's why she has a lot of ideas. She has a lot of images to for me to use as an example. And yeah, it's pretty much I basically make the work in progress, and then I like try to make it as fast as possible because I honestly don't like keep people waiting.
Well,
I feel
and
like
it's not. Are you? Do you find yourself ever having to sacrifice anything in your life to be able to do that, though?
oh
I
yeah,
mean, so there is a little bit of cost reward to it.
yeah, it is. There have been a few nights that I haven't had sleep,
But
with
I would say it's like
especially
that for any job, and you're specifically putting your creativity out there as a way to make money, which is a job. And
Mhm.
so, you're going to dedicate time to it that otherwise you wouldn't have wanted to. No adult, I think, ever wakes up and every single day is like, oh, I can't wait to go to work. I don't care if you're doing your dream job. There's days where you wake up and you're like, nah, I'm not interested in this right now. So
Yeah,
I can imagine that happens with creators and artists, especially. Uh,
it does. It's called art
now,
blog. Yeah.
so
I
that's what
swear.
that is.
Yeah, it is because sometimes people are like, "Yo, I can't even draw a circle," and they go back to sleep.
I can't. I hate drawing circles. I hate it so much. That's why part of the reason why I don't even tell people I draw. I tell them I scribble because there's no real shapes in anything I do. It's so tedious to me.
Well, I draw messed up monsters, so kind of goes the same way.
We got to compare some notes. I want to see some of your monsters, and I'll show you a couple of mine because I do them too.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't put it out there. I'm not. I don't ever want somebody to think I'm doing it as an actual talent thing. It's just a hobby for me. I don't ever want to make money off of the art that I make, and I don't ever want to try and turn it into a job because where I have it right now, it's extremely free form, and I get to do what I want because I'm not interested in how I'm going to get paid off of it,
Hmm. Yeah, I totally get that.
And I would see how some artists would have that same perspective for sure. Because you see a lot of people who, like Lincoln, for example, I'm sure he's trying to make money off of it. But not only is he an amazing artist, but he also puts out really good music. And it was kind of low key. Like I didn't expect that at all. I had to go surfing through his Instagram a little bit to find it.
Yeah, you
And
often
he
have to
never
go
brought
out
it
of your
up.
way.
So yeah, you have to go out of your way to find that other thing that he does, and he's really good at it. He should put that stuff out there more. And I think next time I have a conversation with him, I'm gonna try and push it.
Mm.
Um, man, man, we've been through a few topics already. This has been good.
Yeah, it's flying by.
So I think we're at the 47-minute mark at this point. Now,
Mhm.
generally, I like to close around here, but before I do that, I like to give the guest an opportunity to kind of uplift a younger artist. Is there any points of advice that you would give for somebody who's just starting out and who has no experience at all? I mean, barely does any drawing, but has the drive to get there. What would you tell that person to nurture that creativity?
Uh, can I say it both in English and in Spanish?
Absolutely.
Okay, first in English. Um, if you ever feel like you are not as good as drawing this hand or this feet or this head or this piece of hair or this eye, just practice or just keep practicing. You're honestly gonna. If you ever saw my first drawing, they were basically stick figures, and now I'm making a full-on comic, and that's why I kept drawing the same thing over and over because artists never stop learning. They always learn few new things. You could see the best artist in the world, and he keeps learning things. So don't ever feel bummed out. Don't ever feel like you're not good enough because if you keep practicing, you will be. In Spanish, are you sure, Demi?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm trying to reach as many people as possible. If you want to do this whole thing in multiple languages, let's have a
All
game,
right.
dude. I'm in.
3, 2, 1. Si sos un dibujante que recién está empezando, te tendrías que enfocar en practicar una y otra vez, en practicar las cosas que vos pensás que no te salen bien una y otra vez, y eventualmente lo vas a poder conseguir porque los artistas nunca terminan de aprender. Siempre siguen aprendiendo cosas nuevas. Alright, that's it.
I didn't understand a single word of that except for K, but it really sounds uplifting having heard the English thing and knowing that it's got that same message. Unless you're trolling me
It's
right now and you've said something terrible and I'm regret
yeah,
horribly
you're
having
going to
released
jail
this.
after this. You're getting chased by the cartel after this episode. Dude.
I'm going to be really upset if what you've just said got me in trouble and what I've said over time has not.
No, don't worry.
But it's been wonderful. It's been a really good conversation. I'm glad we got to do this. I'm sorry that I had to cancel on you the other day. I was just in a
Oh,
funk
it's
and I didn't
okay.
think that I could bring the positive energy to it that I really like to strive for. So,
Don't worry.
like I tell everybody, I don't think that this is going to come of anything right now. I'm in the building process, so it means a lot to me that you would spend time doing something that you have no assurance is going to help you succeed.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you. I hope to have another conversation with you at some point, and you're one of the people that I'm interested in having in one of those multiple people discussions where all I do is moderate, because you have a really interesting viewpoint on a lot of things, and you're a really funny
Yes.
guy.
Thank you. That
So
means a
on
lot.
that note, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and
All
I
right.
appreciate the time that you've spent, and I hope that we get to do this, maybe not regularly, but a couple more times for sure. And I hope you have a great day, man.
Yeah, same as you.